Good afternoon. I'm gonna let you pass this time because you got your mouth is full with the delicious food that they're serving today. I want to thank Louise for the introduction, but also I want to acknowledge Louise amongst this community because it's his program that he served for a number of years. For the past, previous 6 months or so, Louise stepped away from CREST to support the division as our acting Triple D. He did an exceptional job, as I'm sure you all are familiar with his work ethic, his work habit, and the integrity in which he goes about his business. And so I want us to acknowledge Louise and give him a hand. And to also thank Tomas and Regina for stepping up in the absence of Louise and continuing to move the program forward and make sure that the community's needs were responded to and that the program was still being administered in an excellent way. So it's a pleasure for me to bring some remarks today for lunch. We've had an excellent conversation thus far. I've enjoyed sitting at the table where I was supposed to be quiet and listening to the robust conversations, learning about the centers that you all are supporting, but also hearing from you what some of your challenges are and where you see the opportunities. And so I look forward to the continued engagement. I also had an opportunity to hear part of the presentation that was just made, and I have to say that's some excellent work that you all are doing here and a true model that hopefully we can see replicated across other institutions. So it is my pleasure to serve as the speaker for today's luncheon on the first day of this two-day event in Edinburgh, Texas, in the heart of the Rio Grande Valley. I am not a stranger to Texas, but this is my first time visiting the Horn of Texas. Flying over and on my ride to the hotel from the airport, I was able to get a glimpse of the beautiful landscape of the area. Being right on an international border, I imagine that there is natural excitement with people, goods, and services moving back and forth across the border during the day. I'm not certain that people in distant parts of America are aware of this unique part of the country and all that it has to offer. I have learned that Edinburgh is a city within Hidalgo County. I'm sure I messed that up. I got it right? There we go. That contains some of the richest soil in the state, producing a remarkable variety of agricultural crops. It also gives me a chance to return to Texas, my second home, if just for a short while. My academic career began in Texas at Prairie View A&M University, and for I see we have a Panther in the house. And for 16 years, I worked alongside my colleagues in engineering at PV and the A&M system to increase the research capacity and infrastructure at PV, as well as to broaden participation of underrepresented and marginalized communities in STEM. I was very fortunate to work with some remarkable colleagues, two of which are attending this meeting, Dr. Kuma Patti and Georgia Kimball. She's back there in the back. I remember when Dr. K was awarded his first CREST Center. Receiving the award was a monumental achievement for the Civil Engineering Department and the Roy G. Perry College of Engineering. With that said, it's an honor for me to make my first journey to this extraordinary area, to meet other members of the CREST community and learn more about the remarkable and innovative work that is taking place on your respective campuses. Remember, I am just 5 months in, so we are taking it all in from a fire hose, but it is absolutely, it is an honor to have the privilege to be in this position and to interface with you all and to work with you in order to move science forward. During this convening, we celebrate the energy and momentum of the Centers of Research Excellence in Science and Technology, a National Science Foundation program that has achieved a legacy status in the NSF STEM Education Directorate. Can you believe it? This program has been around since 1987. It is one of the longest running NSF programs, and its successor, the HBCU-RISE PRP activity, have truly satisfied the requirement from Congress enacted in 1950 that NSF should advance the national health, prosperity, and welfare, secure the national defense, and for other purposes. The CREST program integrated research and educational assets for students from groups underrepresented in science and engineering at a time when such academic integration was still novel. Additionally, the CREST project ensures that research is fully integrated with education so that today's revolutionary work will also contribute to the training of tomorrow's top scientists and engineers. Today, CREST has 50 active awards, 25 CREST centers, 10 postdocs, 11 HBCU-RISE, 2 planning, and 1 conference grant. The CREST, and I call it the CREST, spans from coast to coast, supporting a broad array of research topics such as complex material design, environmental neuroscience, data science, coastal biodiversity with AI-driven modular seawall design and construction in areas, to name a few, in areas that relate to national priorities in innovation and technology focused on AI and data science. Today, 26 CREST HBCU-RISE centers and nearly 100 attendees are here to build community, discuss lessons learned, showcase the remarkable work, and engage with NSF leadership of EES and CREST program officers. So to put a spotlight on the host institution, I think Tomas said it best. Constantine, they've done a great job with putting material about the institution and showcasing the great work, not only through the conversations, but on the table. So in 2021, the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley was competitively awarded $5 million to establish its CREST Center for Multidisciplinary Research in Cyber Physical Infrastructure Systems, a 5-year project under Dr. Constantine's leadership, known as MECIS. Did I get that right? MECIS, yes. I look forward to visiting the campus tomorrow to learn more about the center and how it's moving into cyber physical systems, a sophisticated field of study tied closely to robotics and sensor networks. With the collaboration of business and industry activities, I am certain that EES CREST has supported some critical work for MECIS research in smart grids, autonomous automotive systems, medical monitoring, and control systems for industrial production. The Rio Grande Valley is well positioned for the next decades of the 21st century. Times move on, but remember, NSF is always your partner. Importantly, each of the CREST projects offer an excellent opportunity to engage student and faculty populations from underrepresented groups and numbers that can have significant impacts for the nation, consistent with the NSF goal to broaden participation. For nearly 75 years, NSF turns 75 next year, NSF has powered innovations through programs that support its mission. When I review the CREST portfolio, the innovative and transformative research taking place on your campuses continues to contribute to the body of research in substantive ways. Now, Dr. Constantine has asked that I make a little room to talk and address the topic of sustainability, something that we've been talking about all day. Much of what I say may not be much different to some of the challenges, barriers, concerns, and opportunities that many of you have already mentioned. But let me first and foremost emphasize that sustainability is not an action nor an outcome that operates in a vacuum. For investments made by NSF, sustainability is a key feature that ensures that new knowledge is preserved. I like to think of sustainability as the heart and soul of interoperability, how to ensure that what we create is not lost, but can be exchanged when similar circumstances perhaps require an updated response. Sustainability recognizes that what we do today has value for what we undertake tomorrow. A former deputy director of NSF, Dr. Cora Merritt, espoused this line of thinking decades ago. So I submit that its currency is as valuable now as it was then. So if I may, I'd like to offer some examples of how any CREST project can meet a requirement of sustainability. Some may sound familiar because you had to speak to it when you wrote your proposal. The first is organizational commitment. It's hard to have sustainability if you haven't secured the commitment of your institution. And in the conversation earlier today, that doesn't look the same for everyone in this room. So it's important to think about on your respective campuses, how do you make the case in order to secure the commitment, not just from your college, but all the way through the highest level of the organization. And that can be different and difficult. As we heard in the earlier example today, sometimes it requires a complete organizational change. But in the absence of that, how can you and your colleagues work together in order to receive that commitment? It's important that your teams and that are diverse and have a good understanding of the vision of the center. That leadership is provided so that there's constant mentorship and development of those who are within the center and moving through the center. Collaborations with industry partners, other research institutions, internal, industry, national laboratories, stakeholders, K-12, that is all critical to your sustainability. This past week, we did a Delta tour where we were in Mississippi, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Because part of it is meeting institutions where they are. For our AC meeting, we're focused on rural and remote communities and how, as an NSF organization, STEM EDU specifically, how do we support the work that's taking place in those regions? Well, first we need to know what your issues are, what your concerns are, and how we can be a bridge to build avenues and pathways for success. And one of the important programs that we talked about was the Engines Project, the Granite Project, but projects that bring a collaboration of stakeholders together in order to move a research agenda. And that's important to your sustainability. Having a robust evaluation plan. You have to evaluate to make sure that the success you believe you're having, the work that you think you're doing, you can actually, in a substantive way, in an objective way, communicate that. And the last one I would offer is one Luis mentioned earlier when he showed you our entire division. Diversify your portfolio. What are the other opportunities that exist that you can leverage in order to continue the research that you are doing? So in that respect, I offer these final questions, and I know you've been asked a whole lot of questions for the day, and we got a whole nother session with questions to come. But these two questions are questions that, as I'm here for the next 2 days, Camille and the rest of the team, that focus more on you individually as the investigator. But it gets to some things that we would like to know. What excites you as an investigator about your future CREST work. So when you see us, pull us over and, whisper in our ear, pull us aside. What excites you about your work? And lastly, what are your big ideas across the board that you want NSF to know about with respect to your work and your institution? So always remember that NSF relies on fresh ideas that percolate up from the field to our program officers. The foundation values the input from you, our investigators, and our stakeholders in order to continue making changes and alterations that meet your expectation. I want to conclude by thanking Dr. Constantine, the Louis A. Bisherl, Jr., Endowed Professor and Senior Associate Dean for Research and Graduate Programs at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, along with the entire planning committee for a job well done. Thank you again for the invitation to visit and connect with such vibrant people and such wonderful food. Please accept my very good wishes for you, for all of your institutions, your communities, and your families. Thank you.
Thank you, Felecia. That was inspiring, and thank you for all of the support. I can't stress enough the, 2 years ago, I remember when we first went to the meeting, the ERN, and we were sitting there and we had one session, I think it was 2 hours. And we had so many things that we wanted to talk about, and it was just a 2-hour session where we can't really sit down and talk. And ever since, I had several conversations with Louis and said, how can we have our own content, right? We started 2 years ago, and I want to thank my colleagues, Marietta Margo, Pawan Diagi, Kimberly, Cousins, and Arturo Pacheco Vega, that really stepped in, because organizing this, keep in mind, the generous grant that was awarded by NSF, we got this grant to fund this for 3 years, which is allowing us to be able to offer this at no cost, meaning no registration. We're also offering our junior faculty, basically we're paying for the hotel rooms for the junior faculty and trying to get as much as they took the time to come here and talk to us. I think this is a great opportunity that shows the commitment on their part, but we also need to basically reciprocate that and tell them how, what are we, and again, we need to be logical about things, right? There are things that we can ask for, and there are things that, they might not be, don't ask for something they cannot do, right? But things that we know that, hey, this can really help me get to this next phase. Other things is talk to them about like what can we do to sustain the center? Because that's one of the things I've never ever planned a center based on just a grant. The idea is when you start a center, you need to think long term. I want to sustain it. How do I sustain it, right? And that happens through partnerships. So a lot of the times, funding runs out. Like when I established the transportation center back in 2013, the grant was 3 years. Well, we didn't get funded the next round, right? So now I have to sustain it, and I have to sustain it for 5 years. Well, how do you sustain it? Get other grants, right? That's where we went to, for example, CREST. We went to private industry. We partnered with other institutions at MSI and said, hey, let's just partner together. We partnered with UTSA. We partnered with University of California, Riverside on several proposals. this is your window. We are all, I would say, birds of a feather. We're all MSIs. Let's just reach out. Let's just have this community grow. What can we do, and how can we help each other? CREST is definitely one, but you need to think, can RISE help? What about PRP? What other programs can we do? So through the CREST, for example, we got an IUs. We got a couple of CIS grants through another division. We are applying for a teacher course. We applied for Expand AI, 2.8 million. And so keeping different sources of money that helps you sustain and grow. But I can't also stress enough what Felecia said, which is institutional support. So, and I'm gonna say this, and so please don't take it as bragging, but I have brought 44 million in funding to an institution that at some point was an R3. When I was hired, they said, just come teach and be happy, okay? And I never settled for that. But I'll tell you what's interesting. It's not the 44 million. It's the fact that 22 million happened in the past 3 years. Why? What happened? Well, it's the shift. It's people like you're gonna hear, like John Sagan, the VP for research, Thomas, that came in with a vision and said, look, you wanna do research? Tell us how we can help. They didn't put obstacles. They didn't put barriers. They didn't say we can't do this. They said, go get it, and then we'll figure out how we can help. And that's the kind of support you need. So I agree, without the institutional support, it's very hard. But that's where also NSF can help us. That's where you can say, let's just see how can we talk to the leadership and tell them, this is the kind of thing, or maybe the grant can be written in the point where it says, institutional support should be a letter that shows this, and what is it gonna do? Okay, so I agree with you, right? I might be blessed, and thank God, but I'm telling you, it makes a big difference having institutional support that tells you, do not worry, you spend, and if you go over, I'll cover, right? Versus, you're on your own. And I've been part of both parts, right? And so, this is an opportunity where we get to decide. For the next 2 years, we already picked the date for the next year, and we're gonna announce it for everyone. The idea is to start thinking, what do you wanna see next? Do you want a session, we can have parallel sessions for research. We talked about bringing in some NSF program officers, or even other agencies, Department of Energy. We can bring in some other people like Reach Out, and see how we can help you be sustainable, okay? And what we can do to make this community where we care about each other. We're not competing. I never say like we compete, no. It's like, how can we help each other? How can we lift each other? If I need a postdoc student and you don't have funding for them, and I have, hey, send them my way, I'm more than happy to fund them, or vice versa. If you need to send students for an REU, hey, and you want something, we can make it available. Let's just see how we can help each other, right? Because you can't do it by yourself. I know, it's very hard when you're doing it by yourself. And know that we have a community. Directors, I think one of the things we want to do is start maybe a directors meeting. Maybe it needs twice a semester, where we talk about the new ones, get mentored by some of the more seasoned ones, and tell you, hey, do this. This is what worked with me. A lot of the times, if you don't reach out to faculty and get their input, sometimes you might lose their interest. So there are certain things that I did my first time around that I learned from, and now I correct it. Maybe that can help other people, or maybe I can learn from some other stuff that you're doing to do certain. So those are the kind of things why we did this meeting. And we're hoping that this time it was the 5 of us that were doing it. In 3 years or 2 years, more years, it's going to finish. We want other people to step in and get a grant and continue it. Right? The whole point is to spread the wealth, right? Not to just have it as one person doing this or 5 people doing it. But again, it can't be possible without all of us. NSF leadership, right? Us and our faculty and students, and of course our university representatives who are knowing that getting this
is gonna get us something else. It's not just the 5 million or the 7.5 million. If you always think about a short time, that's all you're gonna get. You need to say, like, how can this position me to get other things, right? So we started with the NSF CREST. We got 2 doctoral programs. We got 7.5 more million from other grants. 3 of the junior faculty got large grants that are part of it. We got a cluster hire, which helped us grow and go to other. So all of that from a 5 million. So how can you stretch that buck, right? And that's kind of what we're here to learn. And if we need to share information, let's open those lines of communication. If there is something that works with us and we can share it with you, why not? Okay, so that's what the meeting is about, and I thank you. But I also want to take the time to thank my staff. I have some of the most amazing staff. They do not think of like it's an 8 to 5 hour job. They'll come in and get the job done, and I would not, this is the 3rd conference we've had this year. It's impossible for me to plan all of this without the support of wonderful staff that are willing, that know that this is helping our students, our faculty, our institution, that bought in. I've had it for 5 years. They're all funded through soft money, grant money, okay? But I know that if I ever need something, I can always go to Jan and say, hey, I want to keep this staff, can you please give me 50%? And I'm sure he'll find a way. Why? Because I'm also helping him in his mission, which is how do we become an R1? He needs funding, and he needs PhD students. If I give him what he wants, he's gonna give me what I want. And that's the key, right? So think about it this way. How can you give your administrator something so you can ask them for something? They're not gonna give you if you don't align yourself with the vision and mission that they have. So I wanna thank all my staff, thank the partners, and I wanna thank, of course, the NSF leadership, but all of you for making it. I know some of you had travel difficulties, but you being here is the first step to making this a real community. So with that, thank you very much. We're gonna have a short break. Make sure you get coffee or whatever you need, and then after that, we'll start our next session. Thanks.